Right, we've had enough of you, and we've had enough of you. Which means it's between Shidai and Cass. Can I just finish the Songhai run? Let's do Cassava. Keep it varied. I think Shidai is a bit better than Cassava, but Cassava's fun. Oh, that's a good start. So this card is not particularly good. It's better than it looks, but it's still not particularly good because it dies to AoE Evil, Stripe, or things like Sojourner. Emberworm is powerful, but it's expensive, and we don't need too many expensive cards. Silhouette Tracer, on the other hand, kills Veil Hunter, so I'm picking it. Ooh, hard removal or some mediocre cards, so I think that's fairly easy. And it even gets us a little bit of value along the way. I think Shadow Watch is okay, but it's, you know, it's vulnerable and it's kind of slow. I'm not picking it over Dark Transformation, but I might pick it if the other options were worse. Darkfire Sacrifice is swingy, but kind of hard to, you know, you need a lot of fodder for this, and you need a way to recoup the card disadvantage and make sure you've actually got a payload in hand, so it's unlikely to really do much. Matter Shaper is very powerful on the rare occasion that it does anything, and otherwise it's just a 5/4, which isn't very exciting. Celebrant, on the other hand, is one of the better 2-drops, and can have a ridiculous effect on the game. And it destroys Sandtiles. Very useful. Ooh. Ooh. This is good, actually. Healing is nice, for Cass is usually a bit slower, so she likes healing. And this is also a reasonable 2-drop. Blazehound is probably not what I'm going for, but the card is, you know, fine. I quite like Blazehound. But Blistering Scorn is a top tier card. We don't lack for ping as Cassava, but, you know, ping plus Blistering Scorn kills 2 toughness things, and having AoE is good. And Scorn just hits like a truck, and the, you know, on curve. Oh wow, more good options. So Sphere of Darkness is not what it once was, but ping, draw a card is still pretty good. You know, you can get good value out of that, or you can just, you know, remove an egg without putting yourself down on cards. And it stacks up. If you get any creep payoff cards later on, it can help you, you know, reach numbers where those are viable. Ghoulie is fine. It's a bit early to tell whether we're going to have any sort of tribal leanings. But it is also just a perfectly good filler card. But Wings of Paradise is stronger than both, I think, because Wings is a very unique effect. Like being able to attack for 5 with your 3-drop anywhere on the map is so strong. So easy Wings here. Night Shroud, Grasp of Agony, Shadow Nova. This card requires a lot of support to work, as does Night Shroud. Whereas Grasp of Agony just requires situational board layouts from the opponent. None of these are particularly reliable, but this one is at least as cheap. So when you do have the opportunity to use it, it's very rarely out of reach, and it's easy to play it alongside your setup cards because it's inexpensive. Saberspine Tiger, Demonic Lure, Soul Shadow Pact. Wow, these hits keep coming. Bloody hell. I think Demonic Lure is a better removal spell than Saberspine Tiger. This isn't... Abyssian isn't Tiger's best faction. Like, you can play it with Shadow Reflection and various neutral cards, but, you know, bursting people down isn't... It doesn't do that as much here as it would in some others. Whereas Lure is this nice all-purpose removal spell that's cheap. It goes with our Grasp of Agony. Deals with ranged units of any stripe, and can also push big things out of the way, which Saberspine Tiger can't do, so easy to want to go there. Void Talon, Vellum Scry, and Gore. Right, this is a bit more of a suspect one. Void Talon, I mean, it comes in, and hopefully your opponent's left something in range for it to attack, and it attacks. 6 to the face isn't bad, but usually in the early turns in Gauntlet, you're fighting for board control, not just damage. This is why I don't really rate... Hey, live along, thanks for joining. I don't really rate cards like Glacial Fissure in draft, because although it does a ton of damage, you don't do anything else that turn. If you play it on curve, then your opponent develops more stuff and just pressures you. And so you'll get them to 15 immediately, and then often it's really hard to go any further than that. Whereas if you just take board, they're going to put themselves to 15, killing your stuff. So I'm not massively keen on Void Talon. Gore is too low impact, so I think that leaves us with Vellum Scry, which at least is a a nice way to cash in a wounded 2-drop or random spare Wraithling. I'd say Gore, although all of them are kind of garbage. I think Gore is good if you have synergy with it, but we are unlikely to. We can ping it, but that doesn't really help much. Chakram, Owl Beast, Sage, Prophet of the White Palm. Well, we have 4 spells already. This Owl Beast is looking pretty good. Chakram is fun, but it's not as good as Owl Beast, which is a, tier 1, tier 2 kind of card. And this is too low impact. It's 4 mana, draw 3, ever good. Cough, Dream Shaper, cough. I mean, sometimes you just gotta draw cards, right? Like, if you have the mana to cast this, and the space to cast it, then it's very good. And if you don't, then it's not. But that sounds stupid, but what I mean is that it's similar to any other slowish, expensive draw spell. Not Trinity Oath, because that heals you, so that changes the maths a bit. But, Rite of the Undervault, the 2 Divine Spark, is it? The 3 mana draw 2 that Vet has. All these cards are like draw cards and don't affect the board. They are reasonably strong in slow games when you do have a moment to breathe to cast them, and otherwise they're garbage. So regardless of their exact mana cost or how many cards they draw, like, they all tend to evaluate about the same, which in Gauntlet, it works out that they're not actually that good. You just want card advantage that does affect the board so much more. Like, Vellum Scry is worse than Necroseer, for instance, even though Necroseer is not a good card, and Vellum Scry is quite powerful. 3 is a lot, but just playing a random 5/4 that does some amount of value is better, and I'd rather have like a bunch of them spread through my deck, if that answers your question a little better. Naga would be really nice, but I think I'd greed for Diamond Golem. Yeah, we're not massively in need of Naga because we have Blistering Scorn already, and Grasp of Agony, and we're playing Cassava. So we're already... Thank you for that. We're already reasonably like flush with interaction. A Photic Drain, like, that is just not worth the effect for the amount you pay for it. So I think we do actually pick the Diamond Golem. It's not, it does cost 6, but like, I've actually been impressed with this card. 11 health is so much health. And it doesn't look like that much more HP than the other big golems, but it doesn't die to Sunset Paragon, which comes up like more than I'd prefer. Faisal GG says 4 mana just feels too expensive considering you also have to sacrifice something even when you have something cheap to sacrifice. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the other cards were like rubbish, but yeah, this is not a card I would normally want in my Gauntlet deck. Maybe if I was playing Lilith, because you can feed Wraithlings to it and it becomes a bit more efficient. And there is one thing of note, which is having a big draw spell in your deck enables a certain playstyle that you wouldn't otherwise have access to. So not so much with this one, but definitely with like Rite of the Undervault. If you have Rite of the Undervault in your deck, you can do the Starhorn thing where you just kind of motor out your cards a bit more, which allows you to draft a lower curve deck and play a more aggressive, tempo-y style of play, and use things like Demonic Lures inefficiently, where you don't kill things with them, you just punt them to the other side of the map, because you're going to refill your hand later once you find this Rite of the Undervault. And then, like, over the course of the game, like maybe 50% of the time, you're going to draw this Rite of the Undervault, at which point you can draw 4 or 5 cards off of it to make up for the fact that you got all this tempo early on, and because you played quickly and pushed the flow of the game out to kind of towards your opponent, if you know what I mean, you kind of shoved it at them, you have a bit more space to draw back up in the late game if it doesn't work and you need to refill and carry on. It doesn't work quite as smoothly as that in practice, because Rite of the Undervault costs 6, and that's a lot. But it is powerful, and Vellum Scry does something vaguely similar, just because drawing a large number of cards, which 3 counts as, warps games in a certain way. Like, if I was playing Lilith, so I could guarantee cast this without losing much, playing like aggressive swarmy Lilith, pushing the game towards your opponent, forcing them to stabilize, and then when they've made some breathing room, just casting this seems kind of good. So it's balanced around that. Yeah, pretty much. Like, all big card draw the cost of it is like not doing anything that turn. So it's like a kind of decision between like, am I safe enough to do this and give up board presence to my opponent, or do I need to keep fighting to the board and not be able to take a turn off? It's quite a common dichotomy in card games. I find that in Duelyst it's usually correct to just do stuff to the board, especially as there's ways to get card advantage with things that affect the board instead, like this Blistering Scorn, which can kill my opponent's creatures, and still make a 4/4. So, whereas Fizzling Mystic versus two pretty niche cards that I've already talked about how I don't like them in this draft. So onwards. My card's not looking great, but my card quality is. Easy Lure, Easy Life. Ooh, a good 2-drop. Or a removal spell that gets card advantage. That's actually quite a difficult choice. Especially as we've got this Albi stage for picking spells is rewarded for us. We're only halfway through. Healing Mystic's very good though, because it, well, heals. That is an effect we need. But I think Inkhorn Gaze is probably worth it. Like, being able to use this to kill a ranged unit or finish something off is pretty strong. You just replace the Battle Pet, obviously. Booyah! More pings. Ooh, legendaries. Oh, yes! I love this card. I've had this in Gauntlet before, and it is so utterly broken, it's absurd. Like, yeah, it costs a lot of mana, but it just wins the game on the spot. It's hilarious. It's not even that bad. There's quite a lot of buffs, but like it's not as good as this. And Sarlacc is also a surprisingly good card. Hard to get rid of and just provides repeated pings. And we have a Vellum Scry to kind of pay it off. But the Chonk Generator, that is absolutely correct. Ooh, these are good. These are very good. So Dankheart is a strong ranged unit. We do have a lot of 4s already. But we only have one ranged unit so far. So projecting some threat is a tool that we don't quite have access to. So he might be good. Necromata is some reasonably strong draw, but we don't actually have any Dying Wish minions at all yet. So it'd be very, very contingent on us picking up specific cards in the latter half of the draft. Grovelion is, as well as a pet card of mine, really, really good. We're not going to be buffing Cass up very much. I mean, there's a chance we get some artifacts that make it better, but just turning off Warbird is so good. This card provides basically healing, and it can do even more than that. Like, your opponent has to play around it. It nerfs like egg combos and stuff. I think Grovelion might be worth the pick here. Over this strong ranged unit. Maybe that's too cute. No, you know what? Let's give Grovelion a try. I really like this card. Healing Mystic, second Veil Hunter, Putrid Dreadflyer. I think it's the Veil Hunter. We don't even have any buffs yet, but people just bend heaven and earth to kill these. Healing Mystic's a good card, but it's not a ranged unit, you know. I'd go for Dankheart, but it's between him and Grovelion, I guess. Dankheart is probably like the correct pick. I'm probably being a bit excited here, but I want to try out Grovelion. It always feels really busted when your opponent plays one and you're like, man, I don't have lethal anymore, or my big unit can't pressure them anymore or something. It just does a lot. Giving you free attacks every turn is not to be underestimated either. It's kind of similar to making your general into a 2-power ranged unit with Rush. I really like Bone Crusher. Yeah, I think 5/3 is not the best body, unless it has flying. But this is pretty unexciting, and this is pretty expensive. I think it's better than I previously gave it credit for, but it is pretty expensive. So let's take this, because we're low on 3s. Ooh, a metal. Ooh, a Crossbones. Ooh. Do we have any golems? We have a golem, and it's a good one to cheat out, because it's really big. Oh, and we have a Celebrant as well. So actually Metallurgist can give us some pretty bonkers openings, but Crossbones is so powerful. I have to pick this. Like, ranged units are like one of the best things you can be doing in this format, and Crossbones kill them. Arcane Devourer. Spicy, but not that good, I think. Venom Toth is alright. The chip damage adds up, but the 3/3 body really doesn't. And Necrotic Sphere is a nice little board wipe for when people are pressuring me, and I just need to make them all go away. Yun, Dragonlark, or a good card. Well, that's easy. Young Flamewing, Face Striker, Fire Spitter. These are both good actually. Fire Spitter might make up for our lack of picking hand card earlier. Flamewing, on the other hand, projects a nice threat across the board. Is a bit harder to kill than Fire Spitter. And deals more face damage over the following couple of turns without buffs. But Fire Spitter's a better long game card. Yeah, we'll go Fire Spitter. This deck is not fast. Whistling Blade, second Silhouette Tracer, or Red Steel Minos. I'm kind of low on 3s, so a creature that gets bigger every turn could be good. But I really like Tracer's ability to get me out of dodge or kill things. How are we doing on proactive 4s? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pretty well. And we're really low on 2s. So having stuff that shores up the curve is probably sensible. Yeah, I'll pick this. Blazehound is a bit awkward here because we're low on stuff, but these other cards are real ass. No, by the way. I tried to make a vet deck with Face Striker and Noshrag first and second wish to buff him up. Did it work? It sounds pretty intense. Yeah, I guess I just picked Blazehound here. It's kind of okay. It's not the best card, but it's a body. It does help keep our hand full for Stygian Observer, which isn't nothing. 2 drops? No 2 drops. This has 4 health now? Oh my goodness, that's really good. This is also good and this is also good, but wow. 2 drops? It's not really a 2 drop, is it? Go on. It is also helpful interaction. Crap 2 drop or really good removal spell? Greed. Just greed. We don't need a curve, it's fine. Oh hey, you know I was saying Necroseer earlier. Ooh, ooh. Oh my goodness, these are all amazing. Now all you need is Wanderer. I don't think Wanderer would even work, we have 2 of these now. The trial cards even in the Gauntlet pool? They are not. Conjurer. These are all really good. Conjurer makes minions, which is good for Stygian, and it's obviously good with Albeast because it's an Arcanist. And it's big. And we don't have a ton of 5s. Yeah, well, we have 1, exactly. And some spells. Drawing cards in the early game is not as good as drawing cards in the late game for us, I guess. Because our curve is high. Similarly, I suppose Void Steel is unlikely to have a huge impact early in the game. On the flip side, this is a 3 drop. We have 6 3 drops, so that's not really a problem. Yeah, let's Conjurer. 2 drop? Okay, I think now I can pick this. It's not a good card at all, but I don't really need Breath of the Unborn, considering I already have Scorn, Pings, Fizzling Mystic. Breath is pretty good, but I need some actual consideration for my mana curve.